So by the end of our junior year, we had prom, and I had had a handful of parties, like I did at Benton Central, um, but they were starting to get sort of old, because I being the hostess with the mostest was something that I enjoyed, but the parties just changed. The guys brought more alcohol every time they came. They were getting drunk, so that was an issue. I wasn't able to ever really talk about what was going on with me, because and there weren't a lot of conversations, on the phone back and forth with my friends, whether they were my Seeger friends or whether they were the Benton Central friends. Um, there weren't a lot of those, conversations, whether they were deep or superficial. There just weren't. And so it was like, okay, what's going on here? And I wasn't one to like call people a lot anyway, because the phone lines then, were different because we had to pay for every phone call. And like for us, our dad was on the phone until 8 or 9 o'clock most nights, doing business. So we were limited to who we could talk to and how long we could talk, and the hours that we had available to us to talk. So I would have people over, um, but those parties were just getting hard to manage. And I was worried about my friends, especially Jeremy Gist, because he liked to drink to excess, and I didn't want him to get hurt. And I tried to take the keys away from him a couple times, and that wasn't working. And so I had to tell him, he can't continue to come over because, I didn't want him to get hurt. And so my relationship with Caleb and a lot of those friends started to, we started to grow apart. And I think it was my junior year when, later on in my junior year, when Derek and I did wind up going on a few dates, and he came to the property with me one night, and it was just he and I think we had a handful of people that were going to meet us up there, if I remember right. So we get up there, and like Caleb was there, and I'm like, Caleb, what are you doing? Like, nobody knew we were going up there. Like, there were only a handful of people that knew we were going up there. It wasn't like a night where we were having like a lot of people, where I was having like a lot of people. And so he was like just kind of sitting there, and we got up there, and it was like, what are you doing? And so he and Derek started just wailing on each other. And well, Caleb started the fight, and they just started going at each other, and Derek's trying to defend himself, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Why are you doing this? Like, stop. They wouldn't stop. So finally, eventually, I was yelling and screaming and told Caleb to go home. So that was like the second time that I had to kick him off the property and tell him to leave. And I'm like, that has to be about basketball or one of the other girls around or something. That can't be just because I'm up here with him. Because if that was the case, then Caleb would have been around this whole time, and he would have been calling me to go out with him. And so what is that about, really?